Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3, testing. Testing, 1, 2, 3. Testing, 2, testing. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's good to see you. Welcome to Wednesday. Something was due today, wasn't it? What was due just a few moments ago? You recall? I just spent a lot of time on it. P1 Alpha, okay? P1 Alpha, a very, very big assignment. It has you doing a lot of things. A lot of things you have kind of done before, but a lot of things nonetheless, right? All of the enemies, all of the power-ups and weapons, right? Authentic enemy placement, right? And so, hopefully, you were able to get at least a rough draft version of all those tasks into your game and submit it on time, okay? If you didn't get all of them done, okay, don't feel too bad about that, right? Sometimes you have to know when to cut things. Sometimes you need to know what to prioritize, okay? It's not always possible to get everything done. But you now have the next 12 days or so to polish things up, okay? To revisit a lot of your code base, to revisit your tasks. Go back, right? Try and make them as authentic as you can. Don't dump a ton of time into any one task, right? We're not looking for perfection. We want it authentic, but, right, we're not going to be checking ultra close, okay? And you can always ask in Piazza if you want clarification over kind of how something is likely to be graded, okay? You also, during this P1 Gold, you are going to be doing that new mechanic, okay? That new mechanic and then a new level, a new area to explore that new mechanic. Do you remember a couple weeks ago when I showed you the finished P1 Golds, the samples, right? If you go on to the P1 Gold assignment spec, I believe we have a couple samples for you right in here. Do we have any? Oh yeah, examples, right? The Zelda motorcycle, Zelda slow-mo, Metroid charging morph ball, flamethrower, Zelda flamethrower. Did you see that one? All right, let's check it out. Oh, it's dead. Oh, brutal. Oh, I really like that one. Rest in peace. Zelda web. What is this one? Zelda web. That's not the web. I'm not sure what that one is. In any case, you can play some of these, download them again, and enjoy them. And remember, you always start by thinking about what new capabilities do we want to give to the player? What new decisions do we want to let them make? And then you explore that new mechanic. You explore those new capabilities by designing levels that really use them. Okay? If you give the player a grappling hook, but then you design a bunch of levels that doesn't need it, then who cares? You gave the player a grappling hook they don't even need. It has no use. It's pointless, okay? So always go in that order. Think about what can the player do, and then design levels and rooms and areas that require the player to explore that new thing they can do, okay? Think about the motorbike, right? Every room is trying to teach you something new about what the motorbike can do, what it means, okay? Good and bad, right? Rooms with small enemies, you run them over, it's a bit morbid, right? But then rooms with big enemies where you learn that, oh, I can't run over big enemies, okay? It's just not going to work. Anyway, so if you have any questions on what we're looking for on P1 Gold, please ask on Piazza or during office hours, you have the longest amount of time to work on P1 Gold as any team, I think, in history. Usually, EECS 494 teams, just the schedule works out that teams only have about 7 days to work on their P1 Gold and finish things up, polish things up. You've got about double that, Okay, so please make use of it. Please catch up on your sleep these first few days, though, I'm guessing. That would not be a bad idea. Now, speaking of sleep, I was up at like 3 a.m. last night. I want to show you why. I was fighting some really nasty bugs. Maybe we'll see some. But, and here's a bug. You see those scroll bars? Those ugly scroll bars on the side of the... Why are those there? Those weren't there yesterday. Okay? I'm going to have to fix those. One thing that's really interesting, so in the EECS 298 3D platforming test bed, again, a reminder, this is the project that students in EECS 298, the new 3D art and animation course, are going to start with. Okay, and then they have to art it up. They have to create the characters, the animations, the environments. I made a big tree, right? Like a huge tree. You can climb it much more. You see these moving platforms? So getting the player to actually stick on the platform and not slide out from underneath it is actually not a super easy thing to do, okay? One technique, and the technique we ended up using here, is that you detect the ground that you've landed on, and you set your player game object to have that ground as a parent. So when the ground moves, you automatically inherit those movements. Same thing with rotations, okay? You can see the rotating block over there. You automatically inherit those rotations, and it's a pretty good time. It looks okay, okay? It doesn't look perfect. For some reason, Peach is not spinning, like with the object. I'm not sure what's going on there. But one cool thing is that this is multiplayer, right? So if other players are here, will these platforms be synced up with each other? How would you do this normally? How would you synchronize these platforms across all the players playing the game? Any idea? How would you do it? Come on, let's go. Real quick, yeah. What's that? Have them all in one scene? So the typical way you synchronize things in a multiplayer game is you basically send the information across the internet, right, across the network, to say this platform is at this location. Thus, everyone knows where the platform is, they can synchronize. That's a bit weird, though. Look at this one. We got someone who's like behind us. Well, I guess the effect needs tweaking, but you can get some of this effect by basically saying we're going to make the position of the platform a function of the system clock of the user, UTC time. So most users are going to have system clocks that are within a second or so of each other, like pretty close together. And thus, you can kind of sort of synchronize things like this, like you can see with this person, synchronized within about a second without sending any information across the network, okay? But I think that if people have system clocks that are a little bit different, then the effect gets ruined. Yes?
So like if I system clock like 2 minutes behind, I'll be rotating 2 minutes behind.
I think so, yeah.
That's cool. Okay.
Yeah, but the important part is I didn't have to write any additional server code, and I don't have to consume any bandwidth to get a little bit of kind of cheap synchronization, okay? Anyway, we're working on new characters and new levels soon, so hopefully you'll see them. All right, so our mission today is going to be to start on game design, okay? We've been talking about game implementation, game prototyping thus far, and we really need to start talking about game design fundamentals, okay? Why? Well, when you look at our schedule, you see P1 Gold is now here, okay? The time has come to officially start thinking about what kind of custom mechanic do you want to introduce, and how do we guide players through that to understand it, to learn about the mechanic in an elegant way. Well, you're going to have to do that on this assignment. And so we haven't talked about game design yet, so it's time to start doing that. Some quick reminders first. IGDA Ann Arbor is on Thursday. I think I said this on Monday. You can get extra credit for going. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about the secret life of games. If you've ever been interested in hacking, if you've ever been interested in creating mods or cheat codes, we're going to create some live tomorrow evening, okay? You get some extra credit, like attending events like this, immersing yourself in the local community, and you just have to go there, take a selfie, and you get the points, okay? EECS 298, the course I was just talking about, is now officially FlexTech, and so you can get FlexTech credit for it. Not upper level CS or capstone. Of course, you don't need another capstone course to graduate after 494. But keep it in mind. If you know anyone, or if you have Blender knowledge, I am trying to put together a staff for EECS 298 for the fall 2025 semester. Please let me know or reach out if that's something that interests you, or if you know someone who might be interested or a good fit. Okay, we have to have a really good staff for this debut semester. It's going to be really important, and so I'm recruiting. Thank you for helping me out. Have I told you about the Get a Job guide? So if you go to the top of the campus site, if you go to jobs and internships, you will find this big Get a Job guide. It has a lot of tips and strategies that have been kind of put together and designed with the help of HR teams at game studios. And so these are the kind of things they're looking for. I kid you not, people, HR people at companies, like they will open up your resume, your portfolio, and they will literally just Control F for certain things, right? For skills, for C++, for Unity, for Unreal, for Blueprints, okay, for C#. And if you've got those things listed in your resume goes in one pile, and if it's not there, then it goes into the trash, okay? Our studios, especially these days, they just receive so many applications and resumes that they have to resort to shortcuts like that. And you want to make sure that you make it through those. So anyway, a lot of tips like that are on this guide. There's also a big batch of like high likelihood companies. These companies just tend to like taking our students, and they've got a bunch of Wolverines, a bunch of 494 students there already. And so I can usually give you tips on how to prepare for them. I can usually ping the recruiter if you're going to apply. Usually that helps your resume get noticed, get a little bit more attention. So let me know, okay, and read through that. If you cannot get a commercial, industrial opportunity, internship, first job, whatever, there are academic opportunities that people don't think about as much, okay? So go work in a lab on campus. Go build visualizations for Professor Niebling, right? Go help out Professor Yang, right? Neuro VR Lab, Dr. Krishnan, right? All of these different teams. Many of them, I think, will even pay you, and you can get letters of recommendation as well, okay? So if you haven't found an internship or a job offer, not a bad idea, okay? I think the Emergent Technologies group here was actually looking for a student to hire. Yeah, look through this. And then finally, if you know Unity, make sure you're using these local sites, okay? These larger sites. So Indeed, right? Look for local jobs that use Unity. Just click the link, okay? There's a company in Oak Park called Fleet Mechanic that apparently has listed Unity as a something that they're looking for, okay? I'm not sure if maybe this is a false entry here. Associate game developer, Stardock, there they are again, right? Stardock, City of Walker. Maybe they need something with Unity, I don't know. But College for Creative Studies, CCS, in downtown Detroit, right? They're looking for people who know Unity. Anyway, so make sure you're using these resources if you need to on your job hunt, okay? All right, Apple has created their own game engine, all right? Breaking news, okay, with the release of the Vision Pro for, what was the price of the Vision Pro again? Anyone know? It was so expensive, I'm like, I can't afford that. I just forgot about it completely. Does anyone remember? $3,500. Oh, that's nasty. And with the release of that product, they need tooling to help you develop experiences for that product. Unity already exists. Unreal Engine exists. Godot exists. But Apple wants to do their own thing. And so they created a game engine. Well, actually, no, it's not a game engine, okay? You see, this is called Reality Composer Pro. Okay, this is not for making games because Apple is above that. Okay, games are for children; they're toys, and Apple is a mature, artful company. Okay, so let's. I want to show you. I want to show you this game engine, but not a game engine. And I want to ask if it reminds you of anything. Okay, let's take a look.
And statistics. This concrete material looks promising. That's good.
Does this look familiar to anyone? Does it ring any bells? Apple has a large amount of cash on hand. Unity's stock price has been in the dumps. Why didn't they just buy Unity? They could do it. They might freak everyone out, and then Apple, for a while at least, would need to support Android devs and Windows, targets and stuff like that. They might have an antitrust issue, but why didn't they just buy Unity if they're going to make a bad version of Unity? I don't know. Anyway, all right. So, okay. What else do I have to say? I think I'm going to save the subtle sheep AI for another time. I want to move on. You've made Rollerball, okay? Remember Rollerball? You made that in the first week. Sometimes innovation is not about creating something entirely new, okay? It's about taking two things that already exist and finding a unique way to make them work together, okay? Combine two things that exist, you get a new experience, okay? That's how a lot of innovation is done, and that's how you might choose to do it on your P1 Gold with your new mechanic or with your P2 or P3, okay? I want to show you Rollerball plus online multiplayer, okay? Battle Royale. Let's check it out. It's called Marbles on Stream.
That is a lot of people. We've got a whole pile of names. Hieroglyphics have joined the lobby. Fantastic stuff. Hopefully my spectating is going to be pretty good. I've never spectated a marble race before. Already making all kinds of misplays. If you see yourself, good stuff. If you don't, understandable. High skill matchup about to go down on stream. Who's going to win the first ever marble race? A fantastic start by Shoots RL. He's trickling down the ladder, just like he is in real life social ladder. But a great aggressive move there on the right hand side. Has sent somebody else in front. We don't have the leaderboard up in the top right. Oh, there it is. The first checkpoint is reached by DTR. And the Shoes is still with them, but GTR is way out in front. TV Mugen is going to take the lead. One of you right behind him, and then they're into this weird-looking edible thing. But it's still the two-horse race by Wannabe for TV Mugen. We're on the Wannabe camera right now. He's being trailed by TV Mugen. They're both away.
Right. So, you can see the appeal. It's fun to watch, right? It is chaotic. It's kind of fun. All the characters and players are just bouncing around. It's pretty crazy, okay? And so, sometimes, right, you just need to combine two existing simple ideas even, and you can get something really great, all right? Okay, I want to get started. Maybe we'll come back and do this story if we have time at the end. But I really want to get into this topic of the day, which is game design. Okay, so game design. It's kind of a finicky thing. It is difficult to pin down. I was playing one of my friends, Brent Lattery. He actually, did I show you the 3D models he did for the Sonic 3 film? He's a 3D animator. He's building more of his own games. And I was playing through his game, and a lot of things that you'd think would work on paper ended up not working as well once you got in and started playing. But that's how game design is. It's very iterative. It is very new. It's a very young field. And a lot of the theories about what makes game design work versus not work are still being developed, okay? In any case, we need to answer a few questions, or at least it's useful to try, okay? What is a game to you? What makes something a video game? You have this mushy notion of this in your head, at least, okay? You can look at something and say, you can look at that whiteboard and say, that's not a game, right? Unless people are drawing on it and having fun, because then it kind of starts to look like a game, doesn't it? Right? What is a game to you? And this doesn't have to be a very precise definition. What does it mean to you? Let's go. Come on. Let's get your ideas. Yes?
It needs to be entertaining and you also have to give interactive.
Yeah, it's interactive, right? You're interacting with things, you're making decisions, and entertaining, right? Later in the course, I'm going to show you some games that are not entertaining in the slightest. But, yes. What do you think? What do you got? Yes?
Pretty vague, but something you can play.
Something you can play, right? Something you could play, absolutely. Like a cassette tape with your favorite music. You can play that, right? Well, wait a second. That's a little bit different, maybe. But that's a good definition, too. I like that one, right? Okay, what else do you think? What do you got? Come on, let's get one more. What do you got? Okay, come on. All right, go for it.
Oh, I don't know. Interactive and fun.
It's interactive and fun, right? Sure, right? And that was, I think, our first definition as well. So if you look in the dictionary, you'll find various attempts to try and pin this down, okay? So if you go in the dictionary, you'll find that it is an activity engaged in for diversion or amusement, right? This probably also describes what? A film, though, or a book, right? Are these games? Maybe, maybe not, okay? If you ask the academic community, right, for instance, Professor Fullerton at USC, you might get a definition like this. It's a closed formal system that engages players in a structured conflict and resolves its uncertainty in an unequal outcome, right? It's a much more kind of precise definition. I'm not sure how draws play in here, though. If you ask a game designer who's been in the thick of it for a long time, you might get a definition like this. Sid Meier, proud Wolverine alum, had this saying: a game is a series of meaningful choices, okay? And again, maybe not a perfect definition. You could say life is a series of meaningful choices, right? Doing your taxes is a kind of big set of meaningful choices you make, right? But it kind of catches the spirit of what a game is, right? It feels right, even if the definition seems a bit imprecise, okay? So the question of what is a game is the kind of question that you can ask and have a lot of interesting discussions around, but you almost never get anywhere, okay? The better question that we might consider is, okay, well, if we don't know what a game is, can we at least figure out what kind of things make a game good, okay? What makes a good game? We're trying to learn how to make good games in this course, so how are we going to do that? What ingredients do we need, okay? Do we need fun? We heard fun, right? Said multiple times in this in our discussion, right? If you look at Nintendo games, right? Mario, Wahoo, right? Kirby, okay? Very, very playful worlds. They tend to be focused on fun and joy, right? If you ask Nintendo, you'll hear it just straight from their execs. If it's not fun, what's the point, okay? But you might say, well, maybe it's less about fun. Maybe it's more about being memorable, okay? That's really important, okay? And I show this game, and immediately everyone smiles. There are moments when this game is not very fun, right? But you've almost certainly heard of this game, Getting Over It with Bennett Foddy. Probably just seeing this brings back some memories, especially if you've played it, okay? Some seared-in memories, possibly. Has anyone seen this game down here? So this is a game. It's called Heavy Rain. I just want to make sure I'm recording. Yep. It's called Heavy Rain. It's a game that's very cinematic. This is a scene in the game where your objective is that you've got about 5 minutes, and you have to get the main character to cut his finger off in front of this camera so that a serial killer won't kill his own kid. And that sounds kind of grisly, right? Not very fun, especially if you're a bit squeamish. You have a lot of different choices here to make over kind of what a tool you'll use to do the cut. A tip, don't choose the saw, okay? But you can also do other things, right? So you can go and kind of disinfect the area first. You can take alcohol to try and get the character to get in the mood to do this awful thing. And then you can cauterize the wound afterward using this stick if you put it in the fire to make it really hot, okay? And you have to do this within a certain amount of time, okay? So that's not a super fun scenario, at least not in my opinion, but it was very memorable. I still haven't forgotten it myself. What about games that are poignant or painful, okay? What about games that are downright depressing, okay? Games like Mainichi, okay? Games that we're going to play together, by the way, later in the semester, okay? When we play this game, you'll discover that it was not made at all to be fun. It is a very unpleasant playthrough, but also a very poignant and meaningful one, especially for the person who created it, okay? So these are not all fun, okay? Are these games good? Well, it's hard to say, but they are all very engaging, Okay, these are games that present you with decisions to make, and you get to experiment and study the outcome and make more decisions, and so they are very engaging. So the question of what makes a good game is again too hard to pin down. In this course, your grading will be focused instead on a different question: what makes an engaging game? Now, I don't mean addictive, okay? I mean a game that involves the player a lot, okay? A game that requests and has a dialogue with the player. A game where you make decisions and those decisions matter, all right? So in this course, we return to this definition of a game from Sid Meier. If we're going to listen to anyone, it might as well be Sid. And we're going to say that in this course, for grading purposes at least, a game really is a series of meaningful decisions, okay? And so today we're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about what we mean here. What does it mean to pack your game with interesting, meaningful, consequential decisions? And how are we going to do that more often and better in our games? Okay. Later in the course, in fact, I think like Monday, probably, we're going to do what's probably my favorite lecture of the semester. We're going to talk about player guidance. This is how games can teach you, how they just elegantly teach you all of their mechanics as you play them. Later, we're going to teach you about juice, okay? We're going to go into juice. We're going to program a lot of special effects together to make our games much juicier, all right? I hope you look forward to that. It's a very fun lecture. We'll talk about game feel as well, all right? But today, it's all about interesting decisions. So what does it mean to be interesting? What does it mean to be meaningful? We have to kind of figure that out. So I've got a question for you. Did you enjoy the following game? This is a game that I guarantee every single one of you have played. Very popular game. Very well-known game, okay? Did you enjoy this game? Why or why not? Ready? Yeah.
Yeah, I think I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it mostly because I beat it.
Okay, that's cheating. But yeah, right? If you make something, right, you're going to feel a bit of nostalgia for it. You know what went into it. And if you put a ton of effort into it, there's a good chance it might engage you. It might engage other people too. Okay? How many of you really enjoy? You'd go stop and play this casually right now. Okay? Forget Fortnite. What are people playing these days? Really quick, by the way. What are you playing? You barely have time for games, but Balatro? Okay. What else? Stardew Valley. Okay. Rocket League, right? Okay, I want you to forget these games. How many of you would play this over them? And none of you, right? Okay, typically this is not considered a very engaging game, okay? It's great for the amount of time you had, but it's not super engaging, okay? We're going to do some studies for a couple different games. We're going to categorize some games that had kind of fewer decisions, more trivial decisions, boring decisions, right? By trivial, I mean decisions you can make but that don't have a consequence. Over here, we're going to have games that we have more decisions in, more impactful decisions, more interesting decisions. As you'll discover, the games on the right tend to be a bit better received than the ones on the left, okay? So, Rollerball, vanilla version, okay, that we made in just a couple hours, that's going on the left, okay? There's not a ton of decisions to make. You do have some physics to contend with. Depending on the level design, you might need to be careful, weigh your options, right? But in general, people aren't engaged with this game very much. I need a volunteer. All right, come on. Have you come up already? No. Okay, very good. Okay, I'm going to show you a game that is a very popular game. It is also a ball-rolling game, okay? It was made by a famous figure in the games industry, Mark Cerny, who's now like one of the lead architects at PlayStation. And we're going to play the game, okay? Now, come on. I want you to take note of what you notice about this game, its mechanics, how it puts pressure on your decision-making, okay? This is a very hard game, so don't feel bad if it doesn't go super well. Good luck, okay? Let's see here. Ready? You'll use the arrow keys. That's all you care about. Okay. Okay, here you go. Okay. Oh, thank you. All right. So notice there are multiple paths here, right? Okay, so what do you notice about this game? All right. What kind of things, how does it force you into making decisions? What kind of decisions can you make? Yes?
There's lots of enemies that can just have the you remember because of that.
Yeah, there's a lot of variety, right? What kind of enemies do you have? There's a rival ball, right? And in fact, you can actually fight them and you can knock them off the platforms, and if you destroy them, you get points, right? But there are also, what, leeches that kind of jump up, okay? So as long as you keep moving, they won't be able to hit you, but if you slow down near them, then they will get you, right? What else? What other decisions are in the game? Yes?
There's paths that are like easier to follow than harder.
Yeah, there are multiple paths, absolutely, right? And you don't always, you can see a little bit ahead, but you can't see super far ahead. And so when you replay the game, you start to build up a mental map of the stages, and you start to optimize things, you make better decisions, right? Anything else? In this game, can you just kind of chill and hang out, right? Why not? What's the problem? Yeah, there's a timer, right? There's a timer, and every stage you'll get time back. But you have a global timer, and the game will end when you run out of time. In Rollerball, the games that we made, you can kind of take as much time as you want, right? You can just chill there, you can relax, you can size things up. That's not always a bad thing, but it doesn't really put a lot of pressure on your decision-making. This game, I would say, is maybe balanced a little bit too hard. Remember, this is a game from the old arcade days where the objective for many designers was to kind of get the next quarter, right? So that tended to result in games that were balanced a little bit more difficult than they are these days. But the game has a lot going for it. It has a lot of things in it, and every time you play, you get a little bit further, and so it does a good job of engaging you. You need to make good decisions in this game, or you're not going to make it, okay? And so, no surprise, the game went on to be very, very commercially successful, still pretty well-known to this day by designers. Has anyone played a game called poker? Okay, poker. What kind of decisions do you make in a game of poker? Yeah. Okay, right? You can decide, right, to look at your hand and say, hey, how good is my hand relative to everyone else's? And then you have to decide to raise, or you have to decide to get out, right? I don't play a lot of poker. The terminology I kind of forget. Fold, I believe it's called. So there are decisions in this game that you have to make. How do you make these decisions? Question. Is it just obvious what you should do all the time? Yeah.
I mean, unless you're counting cards, no. It's mostly guesswork and like probability.
Yeah, right? So there are a lot of probabilities involved, right? You've got a hand, you know it is a certain value, but you kind of have to estimate, okay, do I think I can beat the other hands? What's the likelihood, and how should my decisions reflect that? If you've got a terrible hand, you might do some other things. You might pretend or adopt some really confident mannerisms, right, to try and trick your opponents into thinking, oh, I can't beat this guy's hand. His hand is too good. And then you can win with a really crappy hand, okay? It's a game of imperfect information. It's also a game that involves you trying to read other players, which adds a lot of entropy. It adds a lot of drama and intrigue to the game. People love poker. They absolutely love poker. People play it professionally. People love playing it when the stakes are very high. Reward money, right? But if you go to a casino, putting your own hard-earned money on the line kind of elevates the game as well. And so, no surprise, right? It's been around for a long time, super successful, okay? I've got another card game for you that I'd like you to evaluate. This game is called War. Has anyone played it? A classic card game. Usually it's one of the first card games that anyone ever learns. How do you play this game? What decision do you make in war? In war, you take a deck of cards, you shuffle it, you give half the cards to one player, half the cards to another player. When the climactic moment comes, both players flip over their top card at the same time. And whoever's card is more valuable wins both of those cards. They get to shuffle those two cards back into their own pile. You play until someone runs out of cards, okay? What decisions do you make in a game of war? Yeah. None.
None. Like, it's all a random chance.
Yeah, that's right. So once you start playing war, it is a game of random chance. There are no decisions to make at all. The only decision in war is whether or not to keep playing. So it is a game that kind of gets players used to handling cards and shuffling cards, but that's pretty much its only value. It is the world's slowest random number generator, and it will only give you one bit, a 0 or a 1, at the end of several hours of gameplay, okay? People make fun of this game, and probably for good reason. It still holds a place in my heart, though, as part of my childhood. Temple Run. What kind of decisions do you make in the game of Temple Run? And for those who have not played it or who have not played it in a while, this is what Temple Run looks like, okay? You are running very quickly, usually, along a narrow corridor. You can kind of tilt your mobile device to kind of pivot a little bit to grab things on the side, but usually you swipe in a direction to turn in that direction. You can swipe up to jump over a gap. You can swipe down to slide under an obstacle, and that's kind of it, right? This is a game that doesn't have all that many decisions to make, but they are consequential. Where would you put this? Come on, let's go.
On the right side,
You put this on the right side. Why?
you don't have many decisions, but they're all very consequential.
They are very consequential. I'll also say, as few decisions as we have, and as simple as those decisions are, right? Hey, you see a gap, swipe up. You see something blocking you, swipe down. Easy, right? Look at the speed here. The speed at which you are moving makes these simple decisions extremely difficult while you actually play, right? So you can often apply pressure to players, and that kind of escalates and elevates decisions, okay? It can make very simple decisions very, very difficult all of a sudden, more interesting, okay? You have to be careful not to balance things too hard or apply too much pressure, especially at the beginning. But anyway, a little bit of pressure can make decisions shine, and we see that with Temple Run. Extremely popular series, super successful. It goes over here, an easy one. I'm going to play No Man's Sky, and I'm talking about the launch version of the game. Anyone? Do you remember how No Man's Sky was received when it first came out?
Pretty badly,
Pretty badly. Okay, do you remember why?
because it was pretty boring. There wasn't many choices.
There weren't many choices. But that can't be possible, because if you don't know about No Man's Sky, this is one of the first kind of massively large procedurally generated games. An entire universe of infinite worlds to explore, infinite planets to discover. That sounds like an infinite amount of decisions. What could go wrong? Okay? I want to show you what went wrong. There's a really great video online. Let me show you this real quick. What you're going to see here is what people saw and were advertised, what they expected. Okay, so what we're getting at here This is what everyone was advertised, okay? When you look at this footage, right, this is footage that feels like very elegant, right? This is a procedurally generated world that has a lot of things that just feel handcrafted, okay? You have large kind of vegetation-eating, omnivores protecting smaller animals that are kind of grouping around it. We see that a lot in nature. It makes sense. These designs look really good. They're all doing what they should. They're all near a body of water. Okay, some of these larger animals, creatures are chilling in the water, right? You've got a nice, beautiful landing spot, okay, a cool mountain in the distance. This feels artistically like handcrafted, okay? And if we've got a team that can procedurally generate an infinite amount of kind of handcrafted, unique, interesting, rational worlds, okay? They all feel like they fit together. Then we've got something extraordinary on our hands. We've got an AI breakthrough. But when people played the actual game, what they instead got was this: an infinite amount of randomly hacked together slop. Okay, that's kind of how I would describe it. You got a lot of different creatures, but many of them just didn't work or react or look in any sort of handcrafted way. You got this feeling of randomness. Many of the planets were just kind of spotty and barren and kind of ugly. And exploring this universe full of decisions never yielded anything really unique. Okay, everything started to mush together, blend together, and so you've got an infinite amount of content, but you've got very few decisions. Okay. And so quantity really is the least important thing here when we talk about decisions. You want interesting decisions, consequential ones that matter, okay, ones that feel handcrafted. I want to show you, right, we go over there for sure. People did not like this game. It was famously poorly received. I want to show you a clip from a YouTuber, a video essayist, I would call a game researcher, Joseph Anderson. And he has a clip that explains the main problem with the launch version of No Man's Sky, okay? An infinite amount of things, but nothing to do, okay? It seems like a paradox, okay? An oxymoron. Let's take a look.
What do you do in No Man's Sky? I've been to hundreds of planets for over more than 100 systems, so I can objectively answer this question with, you go to planets and hope they look pretty. If they do, you stay for a while and look around. If they don't, you leave and fly to the next one and hope it looks pretty. That's it. That's the game. The thing is, though, you might not realize that at first, because there are aliens to meet and speak to, there are resources to find and hoard, you can craft some things, discover blueprints for tech upgrades, scan wildlife on planets, you can catalog and name discovered alien animals and planets yourself. But the more you play, the more you realize there isn't a point to any of this. Farming resources for crafting should lead to something, but it doesn't. You can save up money to buy a new ship, but aside from looks, they're all identical. The only difference between each one is the amount of inventory slots they provide, which clumps in with all the other upgrades to result in this almost catch-22 statement. You find and collect things in No Man's Sky in order to make it easier for you to find and collect things in No Man's Sky. Exosuit upgrades, they make it so you can survive longer in harsh environments and move faster in order to collect things. What do you use those collected things on? To make the upgrades so you can survive longer and move faster. Multi-tool upgrades, well, they make it so your mining beam can be used more efficiently to suck up resource nodes, which you then use to make your mining beam be more efficient at sucking up resource nodes. Starship upgrades, well, you get the idea, and it may sound like I'm exaggerating, but I'm really, truly not. There are no big, interesting discoveries anywhere in the game. There are no cool events, no complicated ruins or randomly generated dungeons. There are alien settlements on planets, but they're all the same pre-made collection of buildings that have one alien in it. Never two, only one. They have some text-based challenge for you, usually a guessing game of choosing the right answer or resource to give them, and that's it. Every planet is essentially the same, with some slight variations that make it appear different at first. The only thing that could stick out between them are the visuals, which is why I say that's the only thing there is to do.
Have you ever heard the phrase game loop before? It's a very, very common phrase. It's often used just very nonchalantly. But it's also a bit of a dystopian phrase, in my opinion. And it's an opinion I've heard out there as well. if you have a game loop, you're kind of suggesting that you have this repetitive cycle of decisions, okay? You keep looping, you keep doing the same things. And yet, when I think back to my childhood, it's always the one-off, unique things, okay, that make a game memorable. A game should eventually end, okay? Eventually, it runs out of things to say. If you talk to someone and they just keep repeating the same damn thing every day, you're going to get very bored of that person, okay? And so be careful about this idea of a game loop. All right. Eventually, you'll probably have one, right? You need to make a game of a certain duration. You're trying to stretch your content out, but stretching your content out into a game loop does not come without problems. Okay. No Man's Sky has a game loop that had almost nothing in it, and it never ended. Okay. That was one of its main problems. It has an infinite amount of content, but no decisions to make. All right, this GIF is actually kind of mean-spirited, so I won't show you all of it, but I really kind of like its ideas. Here, they've taken a lot of well-known games, Duck Hunt, and they've ruined the game's design by making you overpowered, by getting rid of the decisions, rid of the pressure, rid of the consequence, okay? Pac-Man, you trap all the ghosts and you win, right? The game's ruined. Cubert, only 2 cells, the game's ruined, okay? Legend of Zelda, you walk into the cave and you just get handed the Triforce and you win, okay? No decisions. In Mario Kart, you're given a tank, you just run everyone over, and that's it, okay? All right, so we have to be careful about the decisions we put in. So how do we create interesting decisions, okay? How are we going to put them in our games? Well, to create interesting decisions, we've already seen this, you can think about adding consequence, okay? So adding consequence. I'm going to show you one of the most famous levels in gaming, okay? If you talk to any game designer, there's a very, very strong chance they've seen this level before. It is seared into their brain. Okay, are you ready? Do any of you know what level I'm showing? This doesn't seem very memorable, does it? It's just an open little area. It's from a game called Crash Bandicoot. And there's some boxes to open up and some fruits to collect. What is so memorable about this? Well, you have to look a little bit higher up, okay? You see Crash Bandicoot's face, all right? And this is the exact expression most players have when they first play this stage, because this level layout might look very pedestrian, but the pressure, the consequence being applied is extreme. Okay? Kind of like in Temple Run, this is a stage where you need to do some very basic platforming, but you need to do it fast. And if you don't, the consequences are an instant death. Okay? This is the famous boulder chase scene where you run toward the camera. And you can easily look this up, right? Inspired by a famous scene from Indiana Jones where he does something similar, the opening to that first movie. This is a stage that without the boulder would be completely worthless, okay? But gains most of its value from these high consequences. You make a mistake and you're in big trouble. So here's the decision. Should you proceed in a straight line away from the boulder and grab these fruit? Or should you divert a little tiny bit to whack this box open and get the better prizes inside? Which would you do? If the boulder wasn't here, what decision would you make? What would you do? You'd go for the boxes, or you might go for both of them, right? You got a lot of time, it's no big deal, right? Yeah, I'll just grab it all. No big deal. But with the boulder here, you are going to discover, okay, that at any moment you are not running straight away from the boulder, it is gaining on you. The boulder in this stage, I should probably get a GIF in here of it so you can see it. The boulder moves at the same speed that you do. And so any moment, from trigonometry, you know that any moment you're not running straight away from that boulder, you're zigzagging, you're trying to grab things, that boulder's gaining on you. And if it touches you, you're going to get KO'd in one hit, okay? So in this instance, we have something called resource scarcity. This is a more general concept, but in this scenario, you have a very finite amount of time to make your decisions. Okay, same thing with Temple Run. You apply some resource scarcity, and suddenly the situation changes, and how you have to make decisions changes. You can have limited time, limited chances, health, lives, stuff like that. No takebacks, okay? Here's a good example. And this is also a good example of the power of art, okay? You may not have played this game before, but I'm guessing you know what happens when you jump onto this piranha plant, okay? When you jump onto this piranha plant, you can stand there for about a second, and then the piranha plant will snap shut and will KO you if you're standing there, all right? If this were a normal pillar, you could take your time, okay? You could just think about jumping onto this pillar. You don't have to think ahead of time to the next jump. But because this is a piranha plant, you have to kind of think into the future, and you have to get a series of decisions set up in your head. Okay, I'm going to jump onto this piranha plant, but then I have to immediately do something because I know it's going to clamp shut. And so, okay, where am I going to go next, right? I'm going to jump on the next one, okay? And stuff like that. Has anyone ever played a series called Dead Rising? Okay, this is a series in which you are placed in a mall, and the mall is filled with zombies. So you can use anything in the mall at your disposal to deal with them. For instance, a big television set, okay? Just bash them with the television set. This game has a famous kind of countdown timer to it. You are a photojournalist named Frank West, and you have to solve the mystery of this zombie breakout. What has happened? Why did it happen? Who's responsible? You have to solve this mystery within 48 hours because your escape helicopter is coming in 48 hours, and they're going to leave without you if you're not there, if you haven't solved the mystery by then, okay? Removing the timer, this game had Dead Rising 1, 2, 3, and 4. As the games went on, the timer became less important and then got removed, and the series' prominence also fell apart, okay? As it turns out, just bashing zombies brainlessly kind of gets old pretty fast, unless you are given a reason to choose the TV over the baseball bat, okay? You don't care to learn all the shortcuts through this mall, okay? You don't care to learn the nuances of the mechanics if you can take as much time as you want, okay? And so the series fell apart as the pressure got lifted. Resident Evil, have any of you played these Resident Evil games? And I'm talking about some of the earlier style ones. The earlier style is also like Resident Evil 7 and 8. They kind of came back to this. This series looks like a dumb military shooter. It is not, okay? It is a resource management and optimization game, okay? This is a series, especially in its earlier versions, that's all about rationing and expending your resources very, very carefully, okay? You only have so many bullets in these games, and if a zombie tends to take about 8 bullets and you only have 9, are you going to spend those 8 bullets if you know there's another zombie just down the hall? Or are you going to try and weave your way around this zombie because there's a little bit of extra space here and not so much space for the next one? Okay, what are you going to do? How many healing items do you have? This is a game in which in order to save your game, you have to expend an item, a finite item. It's an ink ribbon. You find a typewriter, you can save at the typewriter, but only if you have the ink to do so. Why would a horror game do something so evil, so weird? Well, the rationale is that if you can save at any time, horror just isn't that scary, right? Who would be scared by a zombie if they could respawn? If you have the powers of a god, you can just come back to life with no big deal, then nothing is really scary, is it? The save system in this game is meant to force you to make progress. And the further you go, the more is at risk, right? And if you want to save and lock in your progress, you better really want it, okay? Because there are only so many times you can save in a given playthrough. Anyway, kind of an interesting set of mechanics, an interesting set of games. Risk really is the spice of life, okay? Of life, right? You can feel some of this when you compare kind of a classic JRPG. Have you played any JRPGs or RPG games lately? Any fans of that? I'm a big fan of this genre, but it does have some problems, okay? Compare the RPG genre to the roguelike genre, which tends to have a lot of similarities, but with one big difference. In RPGs, if you die, if you fail a fight, you tend to lose a little bit of time. You go back to the last save file, and you can usually save at about any time. If you fail and die in a roguelike, what happens to you? Yes. Yeah, you lose everything. Everything. Okay? You lose your entire character, all of your level ups, your experience points, your equipment that you found. The only thing you don't lose is your knowledge of the game. Okay? So in an RPG, you can often brute force a lot of challenges. You can go level up, you can go beat a boss by just having better stats, better equipment than the boss. You don't have to think very much, okay? You just dump time in and you get a result, okay? With roguelikes, you are always at risk of losing everything. The only thing that you will get to keep from playthrough to playthrough is your knowledge of the game. And so the focus here, how you play these two different genres are different. And there's a reason that roguelikes have become so incredibly popular in the last half decade, okay? Anyway, to create engaging decisions, you can add risk and consequence, but another thing you can add is surprise, okay? And we'll talk about this a little bit more. I want to take you back in time. In fact, I want all of you, we'll have a little bit of fun, I want all of you to close your eyes, okay? You've worked so hard, it's time to relax, okay? Close your eyes, I'll put on some nice music for you. Close your eyes. Okay. I want you to think back to a time. We're going to go back in time. And when we go back, I want you to think about how it felt. How did it feel? How did it feel on the very first day that you came to the University of Michigan campus? Your very first feelings on campus that first day. Let's go back in time to your first day in the United States, if you weren't born here. How did it feel as the plane landed? Your favorite city. Remember the feeling of your first day in that city. What did it feel like? How many of you are able to look back and feel those feelings again, or at least to remember a trace of them? Do you remember what it felt like your first day at the University of Michigan campus? It's been about 13 years for me, about 14 actually. And I still remember that first day, at least a little bit. I remember the vibes. I remember what I felt. What did you feel? Come on. Yes.
It was really cold. I came in like February.
Really cold? You think, oh no. Oh no. It's a massive, massive campus, right? Massive campus. And with that feeling, oh, this campus is huge, what did you feel alongside that? So you're excited. You're excited, but maybe a bit nervous, right? Is this really going to be a good fit for me? I hope so. Anyone else? Yeah.
Along with that, probably like a bit of confusion. Like, where to go?
Yeah, some frustration, right? I've got these classes, but wait, I've got these building codes, but what is FXB? What does that even mean? How do I even figure out where that is, right? Yeah, absolutely. I remember having the same experience. In fact, I think I rode the Bursley Bates like twice, the full loop, because I didn't know where to get off, right? Every stop, there was something new. It was so large, I barely knew what I was doing. What about your first day on campus? Sorry, your first day in a new city. Okay, what's your favorite city, and do you remember what it was like to go there? Let's go. Come on. Let's go. Come on. What's your favorite city? Yes.
Detroit.
Detroit. And your first day there, what do you feel?
I'm probably pretty excited. It was a while ago.
Yeah.
I went to a Tigers game.
Fantastic, right? You're excited. You're going to get to see the Tigers. Everything is new. You see the cool tiger statue outside the stadium. Fantastic, right? So I'll take you on a memory of mine, okay? One of my favorite cities, and you're never going to believe this, very niche choice, is New York City. I came in from Boston, which itself is a pretty cool city, on the train. I emerged into, I think this is Grand Central Station, and it was gigantic, these tall ceilings, right? Super nice architecture, but it was also full of really, really interesting and cool people, okay? You had such an interesting mix and diversity of people, different clothes and attire, right? Different groups. And then when you walk outside, when I walked outside, it was just unbelievable. The amount of detail filling my screen, right? Filling my vision was insane. You had all these different architectural styles all in one image. You have different shops on different levels of a building. You've got people just running everywhere, okay? And it was extremely exciting, okay? And it was so much, all right? It was too much, okay? Overwhelming. And when I think about why that was, there are so many decisions to make in that one moment. So many things to think about, okay? I was just a tourist there. But even as a low-pressure tourist, there were so many things to think about, okay? Where am I exactly? Okay, I've just walked out the door of Grand Central. I don't really know what street I'm on. I don't know which direction is north. I don't know if I'm going the right way. Should I turn left or right to get to my hotel? Who are all these people around me, right? Should I be greeting them? So one of the Midwestern traditions is like you walk past someone and you like give them a nod, right? Walk past someone or you jog past someone, right? Sometimes you even wave. If you do this in New York City or in pretty much any dense city, like people will be very confused, okay? So should I be doing that? Should I not be doing that? What's respectful here? Am I out of place? Do I seem too much like a tourist, okay? Does that even put me into a bit of danger, right? Where's the restroom? This is something that is a really important question that you never think about. But you want to know where the nearest restroom is. I remember running through San Francisco because I knew of one public restroom in like the entire city, and I had to use it. So these are really important decisions as well, okay? And you just don't have the knowledge to answer them right now. They are unusual decisions. You're making them for the first time. The outcomes are not obvious to you, okay? And so whether it's going to a new city or going to a new class for the first time, you came to this room on the first day of EECS 494, and you're probably wondering, is this going to be a good fit for me? Am I going to learn what I want to learn? I heard 494 is a really tough course, right? It takes a lot of time. Am I going to be able to do it? And that comes with a lot of excitement and nervousness, right? It's very engaging, okay? So whether it's visiting a new city or a new class, or having a new gameplay experience for the first time, this alien isolation, the first time the alien comes down, you are engaged as heck because you don't understand the alien yet. Okay, it could do anything. Okay, you're watching it, but try not to get too close. You're nervous. Is it going to be able to see me behind this table, right? You are super engaged, super excited. But the thing is, over time, all of these decisions degrade. Okay, they lose their ability to engage you because they stop being decisions. They lose the need to think about them, to do research, okay? Here's the situation. Even the most engaging and consequential and interesting decisions degrade with repetition, okay? Decisions become better understood over time, okay? If you walk out of Grand Central Station in New York City the first time, you have no idea what's going on, and you're going to have to think quite a bit and engage yourself to solve that problem. But the 10th time, the 100th time, you're probably on your phone, okay, because you already know what to do. You know what the outcomes are almost certainly going to be, okay? You know intricacies, okay? You know that, hey, on Tuesdays, for whatever reason, there tends to be much less density of population on the sidewalks, so you can take this route, it's faster, okay? Elements and risk and randomness, okay? Even things that are randomized, you will start to build up a probability distribution in your head, okay? If you're playing an RPG, you know that this enemy has a 30% chance to steal one of my items, and that becomes not so exciting, not so dramatic over time. You know how to deal with that, and then it's gone. It's no longer a decision, and it can't engage you. You're going through the motions. Have you ever heard that phrase or felt that? The first day on the job is really exciting. The first day in the course is really exciting, but eventually you feel like you're going through the emotions. And this happens in our entertainment as well. This happens in games. This happens in films, okay? You watch too many films in the same genre, you'll probably start to burn out on it. You've heard that phrase, burnout, right? Same thing, okay? In JRPGs, eventually, if you fight the same enemy over and over and over and over again just to get more experience points, you're basically just mashing buttons. You'll find that you're turning on the music or you're watching a nice video in the background. This is the grind. You are no longer making decisions. You are no longer engaged, okay? This is not so much the fault of the game. It's just a reality that you're burning out on the decisions they gave you. Now the game either has to give you more decisions or they need to find ways to remix things to get you engaged again. If you go and look at the most popular games today, you'll find that a lot of them are roguelikes, okay? Does anyone play Spelunky? Okay, not so much, all right. Anyone play FTL, Fast and Light? No? This game's getting older. How about Slay the Spire? That one's a little bit more popular today, okay? These roguelike games have procedural generation, but they tend to have a very handcrafted style of procedural generation, okay? The enemies you will encounter are random, but each enemy type is handcrafted to be very interesting to engage with. And thus, these games will take things you know, but arrange them and group them in ways that you don't expect. So you have to be very careful, okay? You might know how to deal with a snake in Spelunky, but do you know how to deal with a snake that is right next to a bunch of lava? That is a different situation. And you'll have to use your knowledge of lava and snakes to deal with it effectively, and you might mess this up, okay? So roguelikes provide you with repetitive decisions, but in a very unpredictable context, okay? If you look at Twitch in recent days, do you notice anything about these most popular, like 20 games? They're all multiplayer. Why? What is the value in multiplayer? Why do multiplayer games have such staying power? People will play Call of Duty for months before they burn out. You might play a single-player game for weeks before you burn out, if you're lucky, okay? A quick anecdote. Anyone know this game, Fall Guys? I was playing it for a while. It's a fun game. I haven't played it in quite a while, but this is something that happened to me. So this is a stage where you have to run up this big structure and get to the finish line before this pink lava, okay, which is always climbing, reaches you, and then you get melted, okay, and you get eliminated. Now, I had played the stage about 4 or 5 times, so I knew what the stage was. I knew what to do. Okay, I was getting a bit bored when suddenly I played it once more and I saw this right here. What is that? That is another human player who has decided that winning the game is less important to them as making sure that I lose. Okay? That is not something I expected to see. It's not something I had seen before to this point. But it's the most human thing I've probably ever seen. Okay? And it gets to this idea that humans really are an incredible source of entropy. They are an incredible source of randomness. Okay? And a human deciding to spice up my game by adding themselves as an obstacle into it is something that rejuvenated my engagement with the game. Okay, I'm going to play this game again, and I don't know what my opponents are going to do. They could do anything. They just did something crazy I didn't expect, right? And thus the game has more life. Decisions have re-entered the game, and I have to think about them more, okay? So, yeah, humans are a really nice middle point where they're possible to reason about, but they're impossible to fully predict the entire time, okay? You can predict them kind of in groups, but when you get down to the individual level, it's very, very hard. All right, and so if you look, the vast majority of these top games are multiplayer for that reason. The top placing single player game was in 30th place. This is an old Legend of Zelda game, and it was being played by a speedrunner, okay? And that's why it was up there. So to engage, we really want to surprise, okay? We want to have risk and consequence, as we talked about earlier, but we want to get surprise and novelty into our games as much as we can, okay? Undertale, right, is an RPG. It's not the kind of game where you expect to go on a date with someone who just tried to kill you, a lizard lady, no, a fish lady, and then to have a discussion about anime. Okay? Like, that's the kind of thing that kind of sort of makes sense, but you do not expect. All right? Have any of you played this game called Frog Fractions? So, as you know, this is a game that is all about teaching you fractions. And it does so in a really great way. And it's a game that I'm going to show you. We're going to play through it together when we come back in about 5 minutes. We're halfway through. Let's take our 5-minute break. I'm going to get Frog Fractions going for us. And then we're going to learn some fractions. Okay? So see you in 5 minutes. We've got about 60 more seconds before we'll begin. Question, if we have the problem, as we saw on 298.com, if we have the problem where people are using their own system clocks for synchronization, but the system clocks on all of our computers are slightly off, as we saw, right? How do you solve this without using a bunch of network bandwidth, okay, to synchronize things every frame? What can you do? Because there is something you can do. It's still relatively cheap. It has a little bit more code complexity, but not too much. Any idea? Bingo. If you have a multiplayer server, when you first check in with that server to register yourself as a client, you can, in response, get back the system time of the server. That way, every client will have the system time of the server, and you can kind of extrapolate out from there, and it should remain very consistent without having to synchronize all of these objects, okay? That's probably what I'm going to end up doing. I thought our system clocks would be a bit more synchronized, but with a tiny bit more work, we can get it just about perfect, I think. So anyway, that's what we're going to do. A reminder, if you got your hand up but I don't call on you, it's because I'm trying to spread around the hands, and I'll get back to you soon. Okay, we're going to play Frog Fractions here, and I want to remind you that this is actually the Game of the Decade edition, so not the normal edition. This is definitely the Game of the Decade edition. I did not buy the Frog's Iconic Hat DLC, so if you wanted to see that, I'm sorry. Let's go ahead and play the game. So this is a game about learning fractions, and we do that by kind of using our tongue here. I can click and send my tongue out, and I can eat these bugs. Now, every time I do, I get a score in the form of a fraction. So you see I'm learning fractions, and when these apples and fruit fall into the, sometimes they fall into the water, but sometimes they fall onto me, and I can collect them, right? Like this one will fall on me. And at the end, I get any fruit that's still around, okay? So we're learning fractions here. Now I can choose an upgrade, okay? I can choose the static cling, lock-on targeting, okay? 2 fruit, right? Cybernetic brain, okay? Maybe. I'm going to get the lock-on targeting. How about that? Okay? So now I can actually, I don't have to be as precise with my clicks. I can just kind of click in the general area, and I kind of get, I get the bugs that I want. All right. So click, 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 click. If I get a hit or lose too many fruit, I'll suffer indignity. What else can I buy here? I can buy a turtle. Okay. I can't afford these other things. So should I get the turtle? Okay, I'm going to get the turtle. So now I can actually kind of swim around here, okay? Now, I don't have enough fruit to buy the other things I want, okay? And a big part of that is that, like, my fruit keeps falling in the water, right? So, like, so I wonder if I can go, like, get the fruit, Like, that just went in the water. Let's just go get the fruit. How about that? And I got 4 fruit, so let's go ahead and just... Okay, so now I have all the fruit I could ever need, actually. And I should be able to buy whatever I want, hopefully. And we're going to see about that. Okay. Okay, clean up these flies, okay. I can buy a static cling tongue, okay? I'm going to buy that. And let's see here. Now I can just, I think I can get multiple. Yeah, if there are any bugs that are nearby each other, I can get multiple of them at the same time. So very, very productive upgrade to get. Do you feel like you're feeling a bit better with fractions now? Like anyone? Yeah. Okay. What else can we buy? I can buy a cybernetic brain. Okay. I can buy a cybernetic brain. Now this will actually change our fractions to scientific notation. Okay. So now our fractions have been changed. Now we're learning scientific notation. How many of you are big fans of scientific notation? Yeah? Okay. All right. So I can uninstall the lock-on targeting, okay, if I'm not having fun. I can buy a dragon. Okay, should I buy a dragon? Okay, I'm going to buy the dragon here. Now it can fly. I can fly in the air. But you see, now everyone's going to start shooting at us, like a bullet hell shooter game. Okay? So I have to be a bit careful about that. Okay. Okay, so things are getting a little bit harder. Okay. The bugs are shooting at me. Okay. All right, but I got them. Okay. What about a warp drive? How do you feel about that? Should we buy the warp drive? Okay. What would I need that for? It will take you to places. I need 25,000 fruit. Okay. Let's see here. So we're traveling to Bug Mars, the bug's home planet. Okay, we've got a boss fight here. Okay. We're going to take out its arms. Okay. Okay. And then we got to shoot the core here. So I'm going to shoot the core to finish it off. Whoops, we are under arrest. Thank you for your cooperation. Okay. I'm being sentenced, it seems. Mr. Hop, the charges against you are severe. You're accused of breaking and entering into our native habitat, Bug Mars, with intent to purloin our delicious space fruit. How do you plead? How should we plead? Amphibious, Your Honor. Huh, are you sure you don't want a lawyer? These charges carry a minimum sentence of 20 years hard labor. But there's a special offer this week. How'd you like to become a naturalized citizen of Bug Mars? Should we do? What should we do? The last one. Get them off, get the bugs off. Shall we begin? Our bug flag has 4 bug stripes. What do they represent? Which one? Crushing space bugs? Oh, for the protecting my precious space fruit from you commie space bugs, Your Honor. Okay, that's actually correct. Next question on the series: Bug Jersey Shore. What is Bug Snooky's favorite flavor of ice cream? What's the flavor? Which one? Trick question. The ice cream is unheard of on Bug Mars because of the climate. Well, I had to try, didn't I? 4 and 20 bugs ago, Bug-in-Chief Bug Thomas Jefferson wrote in the Declaration of Bugs that we are blessed with which inalienable rights? Which one? What do we got? The right to parade around the courtroom in only your knickers. Luckily, you're only granted that right once you're already a citizen. During the War of Bug 1812, General Stonewall Bug Jackson held off the nefarious Frog Armada single-handedly. How many mecha frogs did he crush on the wheels of his Mercedes bugs? Yeah. 420. I swear they counted them twice. That's not just a pot joke. A shameful moment in our history. He regretted it for the rest of his life. Last question, Mr. Hop. How do you feel about fractions? Yeah. Yeah, I'm actually leaning slightly towards scientific notation these days. I think you're a huge Philistine and hope you die. That is correct. I'm impressed, Mr. Hop. Yours is the first perfect score our fake naturalization program has ever seen. We were going to fire you into the sun, but instead we've decided to issue a work visa. If you'll just sign here. YOLO. Okay. I'll draw a little bug here. Okay, so now we can work on Bug Mars and do our fruit protecting as much as we want. Or
As conceived in 1632 by Portuguese printing press operator André Felipe, boxing was a gentleman's game, in which two men would square off and regale each other with stories monotonous for days on end, until one of them fell to the ground from boredom or exhaustion. Over the next few years, the new sport developed a respectable following of a few hundred local socialites. It was Felipe's son, André Felipe, who developed what he called the punching strategy in 1637, after seeing a schoolboy strike another in anger, causing him to fall down. When André Felipe challenged the then champion, British expatriate Sleepless Bill Bishop to a match. Bishop was the odds-on favorite. You can imagine his surprise when, while he was describing what he had had for breakfast that morning, André walked up and thumped him in the neck, sending him down for the count in the parlance of our time. While the university agreed that the boy had violated the spirit of the game, officials were unable to find any actual rule that punching violated, and were forced to let the victory stand. This upset caused an uproar in the boxing community large enough to spill over into local newspapers, which drew the interest of many outsiders to come see what all the fuss was about. The newcomers were enthralled to engage in these borderline barbaric displays of human strength and skill, and the rest is history. After a few sports school months, single-minded about safety added the padded gloves, of course. Today's boxing enthusiasts fantasize about a newcomer that would rock the ring the way Felipe did. Calcification of the rule set has essentially locked the punching strategy into place, but it's easy to get caught up in fantasy. Young Scots with big dreams often enter the ring with their crazy new trick, usually a vent of hypnosis. And though they've achieved the occasional victory, none of the gimmicks have been robust enough to make it to the big time. The real wonder, though, is that Andre Felipe's original vision of boxing is still around. Gentlemen's boxing clubs can be found in cities all over the world. You can visit one most of the day of the week and see two erudite gentlemen exchanging pleasantries in the ring. Most people only come to watch a few hours of a match and then leave. And every once in a while you'll find amongst your elders a stout fellow, a die-hard fan, who perhaps witnessed that historic battle between Felipe and Bishop, who for love of the sport would stay to witness the last glorious seconds of wakefulness slip away, only to return to fight again another day.
The walls of this circular room curve to meet at a point that must correspond to the curved nose of the outer hull. Lining the walls, you see a porthole, a glowing display, and a control deck. A ladder leads aft. Climb. I only stood as far as climb. Climb ladder. Captain's quarters. This looks like an all-purpose living area. A sleeping pod sits next to a nightstand. A ladder leads to the fore. An oriental rug lies in the center of the aft wall. What next? So now we're in a text adventure, okay? How are you all feeling about fractions? Okay. This is a famous game. If you talk to, again, any designers in the industry, they will have heard of frog fractions, and they will probably smile. When I brought it up on the slide, I saw some smiles in the back of the room. It's just, that's the reputation this game has. And this is a perfect example of a game that trades almost exclusively, not completely, but exclusively on the element of surprise. Okay? The game is constantly twisting your expectations, rarely in a way that feels random. No, right? If you buy a warp drive, if you're allowed to buy such a thing, you expect to go to space, right? If you go to another planet and start wrecking a shop there, you expect to be in a courtroom, okay? Or get arrested, okay? These things kind of sort of link together. The humor in this game is the unexpected ways that the ideas link together and the unexpected decisions you're asked to start making. Okay? And I'll tell you, eventually, if you play beyond that text adventure game, you will find even more unique, unexpected things you'll be faced with. Eventually, you'll become president of Bug Mars, and you'll have to start making decisions about how to run its economy. Okay? Anyway, you want to aim for surprise. There is inherent value in having surprising decisions, okay? And surprising outcomes. But please be very, very careful about becoming too random. The moment the player, or for film, the viewer, or for book, the reader, gets the sense that you're just kind of throwing random things at the wall, there's no point to them engaging anymore. There's no point to them getting nervous about the protagonist's dire dilemma, because you'll just find some random, garbage to get them out of it, right? So be very, very careful, because if you go too random, suddenly consequence is gone, and you'll start having issues again, okay? So to create engaging decisions, we need consequence. We need surprise and novelty, but we also need to have these decisions layered over time. Okay, we need temporal decisions. We need decisions that affect us in the short term, but we also need to be making longer term decisions as well. Okay, basically decision layering over time. So, in an interview with Ars Technica, Sid Meier was asked to explain why his famous game series Civilization. How many of you played that? One of the most successful and prestigious game series in the industry. Civilization has a very, very strong engagement, okay? There's the sense of one more turn, just one more turn. I have to play the next turn, right? I can't stop playing now. And then suddenly it's 3 a.m., okay? And you enjoy every moment of it. Sid Meier said, well, how is this game series so addicting? He says, you're almost not playing in the moment. You're playing in the future, and that future is coming. It's just one more turn ahead. That's why you can't stop playing. That's why you have to try out the next turn. What he's saying here is basically that you've invested, and next turn, you're going to get to reap that wonderful thing that you sowed previously. Okay? Decisions you made a while ago are about to come and bear fruit next turn, and so you have to keep playing. But this turn, you're making decisions that will bear fruit in a few turns. And so you have this layering that keeps you engaged, okay? Civilization, right? Extremely famous series, super commercially successful. I think there's a new game coming out. When is that coming out? Very soon, right? I think February?
Yeah.
Right? Civilization 7, I think, okay? Might have to check that one out. I don't want to play that series during the school year. Okay, that's a series for summer. Otherwise, I won't sleep a wink, and my performance will just start to degrade up here, okay? Anyway, if you haven't played Civ, I want to explain the situation. On any given turn of Civ, because this is a turn-based game, on any given turn of Civ, you have a lot of decisions that you can make, okay? You can move one of your army units, one of your military units, to block an invader who's kind of setting up to come in and invade your cities, okay? You can move a settler unit to try and get it to the perfect location for a new city. It's on a river, it's on a hilltop, it's near the ocean, or some nice mountains. It's amazing, right? You can go participate in a battle and try and inflict some damage on some enemy units. You can monitor some opposing scouts that might be coming through. You can even block them if you've got the right geography for it. You can prevent them from passing, okay? You can explore the world around you to try and find the best place for that next big city that you're going to create, okay? You can declare war on an opponent. You can also declare peace on any given turn, okay? You can make a trade deal with another civilization if your people are unhappy. You can create a deal, and now their luxury goods are flowing to you, and now your people are happy, they'll grow faster, and you'll have less problems, okay? Now that's something you can do, all these things you can do on any given turn. But in the medium term, you also have decisions being made, okay? 10 turns out, you can be investing in the production of additional units, right? You can make your military bigger, but you can also have more workers to build more infrastructure to make your civilization more productive in the future. Okay, you can invest in the development of new buildings, theaters to improve your arts and culture of your civilization, libraries to improve your research output, okay, and education level. You can invest in new technology. You can choose one technology to go down versus another, all right? You can explore and try and find other civilizations, which boosts your science, your cultural exchange, allows you to make more trade deals. If you're in a jam, you might be able to ally with them, right? You can make deals with other civs, okay? You can secure a natural wonder, which usually takes a few turns to set up, to get a city over there, to get units built to do so. You can start planning for war with a neighbor, right? If you think that they're about to cut you off from a great city location or more resources, you can start building units and prepare for war, okay? Now, that takes a long time to generate those units. You have to spend a long time preparing. And you can focus on the growth of your civilization versus its happiness. All these things are in the medium term, okay? It's going to take you 10 plus turns to kind of have an impact on any of these, all right? And quite a few more. Long term, there are decisions to be making as well, okay, and things to be thinking about. You want to figure out what part of the tech tree do you want to go down. If you are on an island, you probably want to go down a very naval-heavy tech tree, part of the tech tree, okay? So you can get ships faster, you can get better ships, you can go explore further, you can fight better on the waters, right? But you might want to go elsewhere if you're more of a land-based civilization. You might want to figure out if you are going to be wanting to win the game via a military approach by winning a bunch of wars, or be it via a science and research-based approach, or via a culture approach, okay? Culture, domination, science. In the long term, you want to be thinking about how to cut off and gain a geopolitical strategic advantage over your opposing civilizations. If you have a civilization of fewer cities, and those cities have access to worse goods and resources, then time is not your friend, and you need to do something before time turns you into a irrelevant player, right? Secure geopolitical advantages for the long term, and many more, okay? So if you tuned out, the thing here is that every single turn you're thinking on the current turn, you're also thinking 10 turns ahead, and you're thinking 50 turns ahead, okay? And that is why Civ is so engaging. Every turn, decisions you made a long time ago are coming home to roost. And that could be a good thing for you, that could be a bad thing for you, but it's going to engage you. It's more stuff to think about, more decisions to make. The situation is always evolving, and that's what makes it so satisfying. This is a series that has sold 33 million copies, extremely successful. And this is not something that is only inherent to turn-based games, slow turn-based games. This is a game that is in a real-time action game, right? Final Fantasy VII. And yet, if you dive into its mechanics, even this action combat has a lot of layers of decisions over time that are always coming home to roost one after another, okay? An example. At any moment in this game, you can press the square button and you just do an instant light attack, okay? And, it looks like this and it's fine. However, if you charge up this bar right over here, you can do what's called a character attack. It's a heavier attack. You can't do it instantly, you can't do it all the time, but if that bar is available, you can do a special attack and do way more damage or something special. You also have these ATB bars that are constantly filling as you do things. They fill slower than the character bar. They're not instant, but they allow you to do things like use a super special attack or do an item usage or something like that, okay? You have a bar for summons that slowly fills, okay, even slower, but once it fills, you can launch it. It does a massive amount of damage. And then you have the limit break, the slowest filling meter. When it's available, you can just annihilate an enemy or do significant damage to a boss by using it. And you want to use it as soon as you can so you can start refilling for the next usage. And all of these things, or at least the first three, there are 3 characters you control at any given time. So you have 3 of these per character, and then these 2 for the entire team, okay? All of these things are advancing and progressing, and you want to be thinking about, what should I use right now? What is my best move? All the while, you're also dodging enemy attacks and stuff like that. So you've got short-term stuff, you've got medium stuff, and then very long-term stuff, okay? This is not exclusive to modern games, okay? Even games that were made in the 80s and early 90s, like Super Mario Brothers. This is Super Mario Bros. 3. Here, you can see short-term, medium-term, and long-term decision-making in the game, okay? Right? So when you've got a Goomba approaching you, or a fireball headed right at you, that is a very fast, short-term decision you have to be thinking about, you have to make, okay? In the medium term, though, you have a timer to complete the stage. You've got pressure. You have to make some decisions about what's important right now. You have a life count. You want to keep those lives up and do what it takes to get more, if you can. You want to think about your running speed, because if you can run fast enough for long enough, you can actually go flying into the air, which can help you get to secret things, okay? In the long term, you need to complete a bunch of these stages, okay, before running out of lives to get permanent progress. Get to the boss, beat the boss, you're locked in a bunch of progress, you're good, okay? So even platforming games, even simpler ones, even older ones, have this decision layering, okay? Lots of decisions, but also short, medium, and long-term decisions. Anyone play this game? Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild, you hear about it? Okay, very popular. What are you looking at right now? Besides decisions, places you might want to go, okay? Some are close, some are kind of medium distance, and some are far, okay? You probably see this big mountain exploding. It's full of motion and heat. It's awesome, right? Nice particle effects. When I first played the game, I saw this, and I immediately decided I want to go there first, right? But before you can go there, you kind of work your way there. But before you get there, you've got all these other things that you're going to explore, okay? I'm going to take the most interesting route there. So I'm going to explore these cool little ruins. I bet there's some treasure there. I might even stop by the castle on the way over there, right? Medium-term objectives. But short-term objectives as well, okay? Things that are super, super close you might want to go to right away, all right? This is what makes the game so engaging, right? You go to one place, but then you see something cool that's just a little bit beyond it. So, okay, I have to go check that next place out before I quit the game, right, for the night. And then you get to the next place and you say, oh, there's something just beyond. I have to check that place out. And it keeps you engaged. It keeps giving you new decisions to explore, experiment with. That's part of why the game was so successful, okay? And so keep this in mind. Games like Diablo, right, have a lot of action combat, but if you know Diablo, you know that the long-term gameplay is all about finding upgrades and new equipment, okay? And so games have been doing short, medium, and long-term decisions, all of those for a long time, okay? So to create engaging decisions, here's what you need to know for P1 and P2 and P3, okay? You want to have consequence. If I can go the A path, and I can also choose the B path, but they just kind of take me to the same place and they're basically the same. It's like, who cares, right? That's a decision, but it's kind of a trivial one. It doesn't really change your thinking, your thought process. It doesn't change the way you see the situation. You need consequence. You also want surprise, okay? And you want to try and keep introducing new decisions or new twists on existing decisions as much as you can. You also want to try and layer decisions temporally over time, short-term but also long-term decisions, so that something is always coming home to roost. If you just play a little bit more, you'll have a new, interesting situation to find yourself in, okay? So you want all these things, and if you do these things, you're going to have a great situation. If you think to yourself, how can I apply this to my P1? Well, you definitely can, all right? That's definitely possible, right? Remind yourself of the motorbike. Okay, the motorbike has short-term decisions, right? It just makes you faster. It helps you jump some gaps, right? It helps you with combat. It has a lot of great short-term decisions that you make with it. But there are some medium and longer-term things, right? Remember that if you want to do a big jump with your motorbike, or if you want to go super fast, what do you need to do? You have to find a route that can help you get to that medium and then high speed. Okay, so you have to be thinking a bit ahead of your current situation. You have to be thinking about where will I go to get my speed up, okay? I want to jump a huge gap. I'm going to need a big, long route like this one. Boom, I can jump the gap. Where are the big enemies? I need to clear them out before I can have space to safely drive my bike around. Otherwise, I'm going to get knocked off just like that, okay? So even in your small, simple P1 goals, your custom mechanics, you can try and work in some short-term and some longer-term decisions, all right? A question that always comes up, why or how long does your P1 goal need to be? Does anyone know? How long? How many rooms does it need to be? How many new decisions do I need?
A couple of rooms.
The answer usually ends up being a handful of rooms. But the actual answer is you need as much content as possible to explore your mechanic, okay? Once your mechanic, if it's a motorbike, great. Once you've fully explored the ramifications and subtleties of the bike mechanic, you're done, okay? You don't have to stretch this thing out. You don't have to just, I just need to come up with more rooms so that, Professor Yarger can play for a bit more time. I don't really care about that. Okay? I want you to come up with a mechanic that has some decisions and some subtleties. And I want you to give me enough content to fully explore those. Okay? So, an example. If your new mechanic is a flamethrower, what does fire do? Well, this fire can be used to attack enemies, so I'd expect there to be a room with some enemies. But maybe you can burn down an obstacle. I mean, that's what fire does, right? It kind of clears things out of your path. So maybe there's a room where you can burn down an obstacle. But wait a second, there's a subtlety. Maybe you don't want to burn down every obstacle, right? Maybe you have a room where there's an obstacle statue that's blocking, a blade trap. And if you burn down that obstacle, you just made your life much harder, okay? Something to teach the player that you can burn things, but sometimes you don't want to. Fire spreads, right? So do you have a room where you actually have to hit a switch or something by setting fire to one object, and then it spreads across the room in a way that you can't, okay? So that's what I'm talking about, right? Come up with a mechanic and think, what can we do with this? What's interesting about this mechanic? What are the decisions a player could think about here? And let's create a room that teaches the player about all these different things the mechanic can do and decisions and subtleties that they're going to want to consider, okay? As we talk more about game design, especially next week when we talk about player guidance, what you're going to discover is that game design is education, okay? The way that you design a course is the same way that you design a game, okay? In almost all aspects. And when you're designing a game and a set of mechanics and levels to explore the mechanics, you're trying to teach your players something. You're not trying to teach them general chemistry or physics 140 mechanics, but you're trying to teach them about this mechanic. You're trying to teach them about the motorbike and all the things it means and how it changes things, okay? So put your P1 gold in front of other people. Hand it off to your dorm mates, your friends, your family. Watch them, okay? And you'll watch them learn. That's the process they're going to go through. And if they're getting confused, you might have to adjust some things. You might have to make some things a bit easier or more difficult. You might have to tweak some of your map designs so that they're more likely to learn what you want them to learn. But when they've learned everything, that's it. Stop. You're good, okay? Don't do a No Man's Sky. Don't try and wring an infinite amount of playtime out of nothing, okay? Give your players a good, 3 to 7 minute experience. Teach them something new, and you'll have a great time on P1 Gold, okay? That's it, everyone. We will see you next time for some really fun lectures, I think, next week. Have a good weekend. Best of luck. Get some rest, and then start thinking about P1 Gold, okay? Good luck. All right, everyone online, I'll see you later. Bye-bye.